All right, thank you for staying with the State of the Nation. We'll talk about matters, politics, and everything in between there. We'll talk about the cabinet nominees and one of the main issues that is happening today in the country's drought. What is the best way of dealing with that going forward? And also the reality check is on the Standard here, main page, top story there. Let's talk about this with His Excellency Kimani Wamatangi, Kiambu Governor, who's already here with us. Thank you so much for making time. Honorable Edwin Sifuna, Nairobi Senator, is also here with us. Asante sana for making time. And Honorable Samson Cherargei, Nandi Senator, thank you so much for making time. Let's start off with the Daily Nation. And Sifuna, I'll start with you on this because you were here the last time before when they were being vetted. Now there's a clean bill of health. Are there any surprises with what the nation is calling the Hustler cabinet, or did you expect all of them to go through?
No, thank you, Trevor. From my perspective, no surprises at all. You know, we have always argued at some point that sometimes this vetting process is an academic exercise that is meant to rubber stamp the choices that have been made by the president, especially in a pliant National Assembly as the one that we have. But I am very proud of the work that was done by the minority side, our leaders there led by the MP for Ugunja, and Honorable Junet Mohammed, Honorable Caleb Amisi. You saw them put very pertinent questions, and in fact they came up with a minority report that reinforces what I have always been saying on this show, because that has always been the position of the party, that in fact, Trevor, we must reject this invitation that is being made, that values don't matter in this country, that competence doesn't matter in this country in public appointments, that the constitution itself doesn't matter. There are still people out there, and we want Kenyans to know that there are still people who will fight for these values. There are people who will fight for the principles that are set out under Chapter 6 of the Constitution. I want to laud them that although you know, the minority report did not get to carry the day with the whole House, Kenyans will remember that when these values that we are speaking about were under threat by people who are clearly not competent to occupy those offices, by people who do not have the values that we anticipated of personal integrity and suitability for these offices, that there was a group, there was a team, there was a political party, there was a political coalition on side that actually stood up for the values that we gave unto ourselves when we passed this constitution. It was quite interesting that even the position that had been agreed upon by everyone in the committee and everyone in Kenya, I believe, so that the CS nominee Malonza could not hold her own. I am telling you, Trevor, in the fullness of time, you know, they say that the proof of the pudding is in the eating. In the fullness of time, even if you take a tortoise and put it on top of a post, everybody knows it didn't get there by merit or by its own effort. But at the end of the day, what is it going to do there, you know? So in Kiswahili they also say kilemba cha kuku, kichwa cha kuku hakistahimili kilemba. You can take a crown of a hen or a chicken, but it won't be long before that crown falls off. So this competence that we have been talking about in the coming days, when the CS now for tourism is supposed to be the face of this country. She's supposed to be the one leading our efforts to market our tourist destination. And I was with some players in the industry during the World Travel Awards at KICC just recently. They expressed very, very deep concern. They don't know what the industry is going to look like under her stewardship, because she just doesn't look. She looks like a deer in headlights. She doesn't know where she is. She doesn't know what she's doing. So we wish them the best, but Kenyans can come to expect that when it comes to the current government, you know, competence doesn't matter. Your integrity doesn't matter. You have spoken about the cabinet that has been unveiled in Siaya, and Cherargei here was surprised at how much qualification per capita was in that list. And I was telling him that if your intention is to find good people, if your intention is to find competent people, yeah, you will find them. These people are there. It is just that in Tanga you choose to overlook competence and suitability. In fact, if you don't have a criminal case, you have no chance of becoming a cabinet secretary under this government. So we want to wish them the best, because, you know, they have been cleared. This is the government that, you know, we have now. But I want to tell Kenyans, please adjust your expectations even lower, because this is not a team that can deliver the economic revival that we were told is coming.
Cherargei, do you agree that competence doesn't matter out of this hustler cabinet that is now here?
Thank you, Trevor, and good morning I think this is what is expected, that from the onset I want to congratulate all the ladies and gentlemen that have been appointed to the cabinet, and a number of them, I know them personally and I know their competence. Contrary to what my brother Senator Sifuna is saying, a number of colleagues here are qualified, and more than qualified, both by suitability and competence and ability. And I'm surprised that he wants to allege that some of the Hustler cabinet does not consist of top brains. When you look like people like Professor Kithure Kindiki, people like Njuguna Ndung'u, people like former Vice President Musalia Mudavadi, among others, are people who are well-versed, they know the country, they are qualified, they have the competence, and therefore they say the test in the pudding is in the eating. So I want to ask my brother and his followers and other doubting Thomases. Even during Jesus Christ's time, there were many doubting Thomases, but we shall reach the destination. Let us give the Hustler cabinet opportunity to settle down, to start working. There is a lot that needs to be done. The president has manifesto that needs to be implemented. And I think for us as good Kenyans, as good citizens, as good leaders, we must always pray for our government to succeed. Because if the cabinet and the president succeeds, the entire country succeeds. Number two is that the vetting and approval process, I think, I believe in the ability and competency of the National Assembly members, both who participated in the vetting and appointments, and also those who contributed on the floor of the House. And you could follow the debate on several occasions. And I think the expectations is huge. I want to assure the country that the president is committed to ensure that the cost of living comes down, the issue of food security is assured. For example, there is already, and governor can confirm, there is already a rollout program of fertilizers to ensure that...
Yeah, we'll come to the cost of living and the fight against the drought, but let's stick to the cabinet first.
Yes, I'm just saying, because that is, Trevor, their work is cut out. When you look at a number of them, I saw some people who are purporting that Peninah Malonza was not qualified or did not have the know-how of wildlife and tourism. I don't know, Najib Balala...
Calling a team of 21 legislators, both minority and majority, some people, claiming that she does...
Yeah. Of course...
that was a unanimous...
Of course, it was a unanimous decision. But you know, judging Peninah Malonza on the fact that she could not speak or express herself, is a minute assessment of one person. Because if you see at that report, and I followed the proceedings when the report was being tabled, is that because she didn't understand, or she didn't come out to know what wildlife and tourism is all about. That was the only argument. But when you look at her qualification, this is somebody she has been a deputy governor, she has the experience of public service, public office. So I don't think the committee, by design, or the bottom line is that these ladies are underestimated, but I can assure you she'll perform more than Najib Balala, because during Najib Balala, during the tenure, the outgoing CS, the rhinos died. Was it rhinos or elephants? And he told us, why are you asking? You remember he even quarreled Kenyan and said he only answers to the appointing authority. So in fact, the person who is in charge of tourism, and I can see Sifuna is worried, because he attended the World Travels, I don't know why would the tourism sector players would want to judge her before beginning the job. They should be judging an outgoing CS Najib Balala. So when you look at the mythical Linturi, these are people, Trevor, I heard people saying he's facing 37, but those are 37 civil cases. They are not economic crime cases. They are not criminal cases. And Mythical Linturi has been elected. He has been one of the senior legislators in time, and I believe he will transform the agriculture sector. Aisha Jumwa, this is a story of resilience. Somebody who has come up, you heard her story. Okay. This is an inspiration to young girls, young teenage girls who get pregnant or are married off early, but she inspired them to know that they can still make it in life. So in an upshot, Trevor, I want to ask our brothers that even as they oversight, they should give time government to implement.
Yeah.
Then the oversight, you don't oversight nothing.
Okay.
You don't just start and saying, you know, so-and-so will not perform. Yet they have not even begun the job.
Okay.
Yeah.
Governor Omatangi, is this an indictment on the National Assembly that there's a unanimous decision to reject a nominee, but then the members of the National Assembly members approve that same nominee? And you will be dealing with your own CECs as well, so this is a situation you'll be facing.
As he named.
You know, Trevor, first let me say good morning to our viewers and to you too. And thank you for the opportunity to be here this morning. And Trevor, probably what I may want to bring to the mind of our viewers, those that followed the whole of this story, you know, there is a reason first why those processes are set in law, and that is why that even a unanimous decision of a committee is subject to the decision of the whole House. It was not put there in vain. It was put there because it is understood by practice, experience, and past that indeed a committee like that can also be wrong in its decision. Otherwise, the constitution or the processes of parliament would have just provided that the committee makes the decision and it holds. And so you can't fault the checks and balances that have been put in place to ensure that the process is fair to the end. And that's why you find, remember the discussion we had here, our last sitting, when our friend, and of course, largely together with most of the people in the Azimio coalition, had wanted to front an opinion that you can judge some of those nominees then on the basis of what has been alleged about either their integrity, and other issues, including that matter of competence. But you see, immediately after that was put to test, when the nominees were invited to the panel, that opinion and that push died. How did it die? Probably that's what Sifuna would have been telling us. He was very vocal. The last time we were here, he had very punchy points on that day. And indeed, even his talk then was hardly on Malonza. It was on Linturi, it was on Jumoa, and others. Suddenly, now that shifts to Peninah. And so, that's what I'm saying. You see, it is the same argument fronted in many different ways, but answering to the same question, that an individual's opinion or the opinion of a few does not necessarily mean that in our democratic process of choosing who leads us. And I think it is important, Trevor, that we rethink and re-understand what leadership is about. It's not about the number of PhDs you have in zoology or in or how much biochemistry you understand. Neither is it about how many cattle dips you can build. It is all about when you stand in front according to whom and what you have been chosen to represent. How do you show direction and the way forward? And I want to borrow words of one of my friends in leadership and management, who has been using a very interesting term that I've liked, that what matters is the tone at the top to begin with. And I believe that the tone at the top that the president has set is good. It is useful. It is helpful for this country. And once that is said that way, you realize that all these other people here that you see we are talking about, the whole troop, they will rally behind that call and tone and direction. If you look at, if you are to introspect into each one of them, and I don't want to do that, it's a lengthy list, but if you just cast your eye over the whole spectrum, how many of them, I mean, if you'd ask about delivery at cabinet level, for example, collectively, and with the president and his deputy in place, would you summarily be of the opinion that indeed that this team is not able to deliver this country to the next level according to our agenda? I think the answer would be an emphatic no. And reason being, Trevor, if you look at this list as it is, first individually, you will see that most of these individuals are tested in various forms and levels of leadership. And I want to quickly focus on Peninah Malonza. And that huge focus that was unfairly, in my view, focused on her just because she could not, in I think, very partisan judgment, be eloquent. Let me tell you. And
how is it partisan? It was unanimous.
Just a minute. Let me put my point across.
Yeah.
You may then judge whether I make sense or I don't. You see, if you follow even the most prominent thinkers and leaders and psychologists in this world, they'll tell you one thing all the time, and they repeat it many times over. If you find somebody in a group, for example, the way we talk, we are here, somebody who talks too much and more than anyone else, be wary of that person when it comes to perception of issues. Because sometimes you find people talk a lot just to try and blur and blanket the understanding of things. You know, necessarily talking a lot does not mean that you have the perception or the understanding. Actually, the recommendation most of the time when you are judging people is look for that one person who talks less. And when they talk, they make sense. And they mostly are the ones who give direction. And if you've watched, and I'm sure you've watched debates here, and you know, I don't need to say if you, you do. And so, you know, I find it very unfair. And even when you are young, you know what your teacher used to tell you in class, that God has given you 2 ears to listen more and 1 mouth to talk less. And so, this judgment that because you don't have a lot of sophisticated English, you know, and you talk a lot when everybody else is whatever, doesn't mean that you don't think. You know, you could just say 2 words. You could just show direction, and things change. Let me also say in summary, because I followed that story, and I was one of those people who pitied Malonza from the history of this country. All the times from the days of Mulu Mutisia and so many other Kenyans who have sat in positions of leadership. It has been demonstrated that those people can occasion a change and development and a good perception of the issues as they are affecting their people and our community. And I believe that if you allow Peninah to sit in her position as the tourism CS, she will be able to do her job. And on this basis, one, it is not entirely the responsibility of a single individual, be they a PS, a CS, a technocrat, or who they are, to deliver on the vision or the mission or the entire agenda of a whole ministry. It is that ministry has a collection of so many experts, so many knowledgeable people. And it is their mandate collectively to deliver on that agenda. So I think that was not necessarily a fair judgment, and she could improve in course. And lastly, let me say that this team, I believe, understand that the expectations of our people are very high about delivery. All
right, Sifuna, I saw you taking notes. Let me take a quick break, then come back and see what your response would be on this. And also, we'll take some of your feedback at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. See you in just a bit.